Welcome to the Zesty Ginger Podcast. We are Megan and Dr. Alex. We are here for transformation. Yours, ours, and the collective. Personal and professional for practitioners. But not just any transformation. Compassionate transformation. Because between the two of us, we have seemed to have done things the painful way. Let our pitfalls become your stepping stones. We aren't afraid to share our raw and vulnerable truths in order to help you transform your thinking, your body, your heart, and your soul. Combining 15 years of functional medicine with brain-based habit change to lead you to the best life possible in a compassionate way. Compassion, yes, yet plan to roll up your sleeves. Transformation requires your participation. And a quick reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor, not this doctor, before making changes. Now let's get into the episode. Hello, this is Dr. Alex. I wanted to take one little moment to invite you to the opening of our Health Transformation Accelerator program, and it is open right now. It is open for a limited period of time because we open it twice a year. It is our 12-week transformational program. You can use it for any transformation you want to undergo, whether you are starting out still working on your health or you have healed and you are on your next mission to help heal the world. We got you. It is for you. So check out the link down in the show notes. You can also just go straight to zestyginger.com/transformation. You can read all of the amazingness that is included in it, exactly what we're going to be doing for the 12 weeks. And you can even listen to and see the real transformational stories of the people that have gone through it. Now, we do have the opportunity to hop on the phone with someone that has been in the program. So reach out to us, shoot us an email if that is something that you are interested, and we will get you the links to hop on the schedule for that. Also, we have amazing bonuses happening each day. So it behooves you to join as early as possible because you get all the bonuses then. But no matter when you're coming in, we'll be announcing on Instagram. So go to zesty_ginger and follow us over there. Turn on your notifications for the account because then we're going to be announcing all of the amazing bonuses so that you make sure you don't miss out on them. We are going to be so excited to start here shortly, and we would love to see you there as well. We can't wait to support you all in your transformations because we know what that's going to create in the world. It creates magic, it creates healing, it creates wholeness, and that is more of what we need. So that is what we're going to do. We invite you to come on over, go to zestyginger.com/transform to sign up, and we will see you there.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. I am so happy to have you here today because I have an amazing guest with me, Dr. Kirstin Lauritzen. And knowing Dr. K, I know we're going to get into some really good stuff today. So if you want to model someone who implements things insanely quickly, makes change, massively up levels for success, personal health, business, all the things, I want you to listen very carefully today. And this is going to be about a way of thinking, not what to think, but how we think. And Dr. K has been one of the successful leaders and people that every single time I see a message from her, I know it's going to be exciting. I know there's going to be a huge win. And even if there's something that is a struggle, it's always coming from a what can I do and how can I make this better? So I will ask you all today to grab at least one takeaway and tag both of us. I'll put her Instagram in the show notes. I want you to tag both of us with what your takeaway is and what you're going to actually do, because I know there's going to be tons. So if you want all the possibility, Dr. K, Kirstin represents the possibility. So let me explain who she is, and then we'll get into the interview. So Dr. Kirstin Lauritzen is a performance coach for entrepreneurs and athletes. She earned her doctorate in chiropractic and continued with her passion to get a master's in human nutrition and functional medicine And now she helps athletes and entrepreneurs transform their performance through optimizing the physical body with functional medicine, performance mindset, and harnessing the power of the subconscious mind and fitness. She's the founder and owner of her own practice, Northwest Functional Medicine, and founder of drkirstin.com. Welcome, Dr. K.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you here.
Awesome.
So let's go back to a little bit of the beginning of, first of all, who you work with and why, and just how you even got interested in the field that you're in. Share a little of the backstory.
Yeah. So I'll keep it brief. But I grew up having endometriosis. I had like not the worst acne ever, but like I had, breakouts, acne, things like that. So my mom was like the best. She was like trying to help us like figure out how to feel more comfortable, like in our bodies and in our skin. Through that process, tried all sorts of topicals and things for that, and ended up taking antibiotics for acne. And at the time it worked really well, but over time I learned that it really, really messed up my gut. And then that ended up leading to that, and the endometriosis ended up leading to me taking birth control. And it was really like not the right kind for me to take. And so then it ended up leading to migraines and worsening of a lot of my symptoms. So I ended up with all sorts of GI problems and all of that. So that focus of when I figured out like I need to learn how to heal whatever is happening here, like that whole system's not working for me. And so I ended up going to graduate school to figure out how to fix my body, because chiropractic at the beginning was my sort of like entryway in, as well as like paleo, nutrition and CrossFit and all that kind of jazz sort of introduced me to this other world that like, you can use nutrition and you can use like all these other things to like fix these things that are going on, these chronic symptoms. And it was a way in. So then I learned about functional medicine, got that master's at the same time as my chiropractic degree, and was focusing all on the physical body. At the same time, like I've been an athlete all of my life, gymnastics, from age 3 to 12, my body was like quite literally falling apart. I had knee pain and back pain and ankle pain, like so many sprained injuries. My mom was like, okay, enough. Like, I can't have you just like falling apart. Which is also part of what drove me into chiropractic as well, because I was like, I want to help people be able to continue on in their sport, whatever sport that is, and whatever that looks like, is a main driver of why I do what I do, because I want people to be able to continue on in the sports that they love and not have their body physically holding them back from doing what they love to do. So I played volleyball. I was like super, super active. And then I got into triathlons after CrossFit and into my, upper 20s and 30s, the same time-ish as I was like starting my business. And it was just like so much load on top of load, on top of load, on top of load. It's just adding more and more and more and more and more on top of an already really stressed body and mind that was trying to create something, this business that I always wanted to create, wasn't going as planned. And so it's just a lot. And at the same time, I'm trying to figure out, how do you continue improving these symptoms that are going on in my body, still sometimes getting endometriosis pain with my periods, still getting migraines every once in a while, and just really trying to figure out like, what do you do? How do I fix this problem? And then that's when I came to the neurolinguistic programming level 1 training with you and Dr. Alex. And I started realizing that, first off, for myself, I had a lot of healing to do. And also that I really needed these tools for the people that I work with as well, because athletes also need to be focusing on the physical body and also what's going on in the mind, and not just mindset, but energy and how the flow of all of these systems work together. And that is ultimately how you really get that like peak performance, but sustained over time. And so, so that's kind of how I've ended up with what I do. I work with all types of athletes, athletes that would maybe not consider themselves athletes if they're, 5K, 10K types of people, or you're elite athletes. I mean, kind of all over the board, but that's what I do. And that's how we got here.
And we got to meet you in that first 7-day training in Dallas. And what was interesting, because what I remember is that, well, one, I think you found us and came to the training really quickly.
I did.
So
yeah. I hardly knew you.
Right.
I actually didn't know anything about you. I've never listened to your podcast.
Really?
We just ended up on a call. I still actually don't know to this day how you and Dr. Alex met. I don't know that much. I mean, I know you guys now like quite a lot, but yeah, when I showed up to the training, we had one Zoom call just to like talk about like business, and you were like, "Hey, you sound like a really good fit for this training that we have coming up. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "That sounds like exactly what I need." So I just figured out how to make it work. And I just came and I just was like, okay, like, let's just see what happens. And I was primed. I thought what it sounded like was very similar to something that my sister had been coached through when she was going through her CrossFit career. She was doing a lot of regionals at the time. And so I was like, man, that sounds so similar. And like, I really want to learn that. So I was sort of primed for it. And at the same time, I was like, I feel like I need to be there, not just for myself, but for the people that I work with. It seems like something that I've been missing this whole time. And I was right. So, yeah.
What would you say was the biggest thing you were looking for, like either personally or in business, in that moment that you were like, yes, I'm going to go to this?
Yeah, it's a good question. One was that I realized that I felt like I've always sort of felt this, like I'm in my own way. Because I had tried all the things I've purchased tons of coaching courses and coaches and online courses. And I mean, I've done like the whole game. I've done a lot of things, and I have received a lot out of each one. It's really cool to see now on the flip side, like how much I know. Because like I've done so many of those things, but I also was coming from a place where a mindset or a belief that like I must not know enough because I'm not getting the results that I want. Like I was really frustrated with like where everything was at, as far as like getting more clients, also getting clients the results that they're looking for. And I'm as invested, oftentimes as they are. I want them to get what they want, but I could just tell that something wasn't right, both in like where I was coming from with what I wanted to create in my business, and in my just, personal life as well. And then what my patients and clients were experiencing as well. It's like, there's just something just not right here. And on that mirroring side, they also seemed like they were getting in their own way. Right? Like I would do all these functional medicine protocols with them. And then we would just like hit this wall where they would just be like, well, I'm just anxious all the time. And then they're like, I'm seeing counselors, I'm seeing therapists, I'm doing all these things. And I'm like, well, something's not working, right? Like right. Something is not right here. And I have a feeling it's also contributing to your gut stuff. I have a feeling it's also contributing to like why you have joint pain and are consistently getting injured as an athlete, right? Like all of these things. It's like there's something that I feel like I'm missing here, and I'm being shown what I'm missing, So I think that was the moment on that call when I was like, I feel like I'm in my own way, and I feel like my athletes are also getting in their own way in some way, shape, or form. This seems like this thing that is going to help me be able to figure that out. And again, I was right. Like it absolutely, it has given me a lot of tools to be able to figure that out, not just for myself, but also for the people that I work with.
So what do you feel like have been the biggest like tools or takeaway, not specific tools, but like the process that, neuro-linguistic programming or hypnosis or our transformation accelerator process, like what has really impacted your clients' performance the most, or what was your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, I think it was, when I talk about like harnessing the subconscious mind, it really, the process is getting through those beliefs and the emotions. You mentioned before we even started this, like I came to the training and was like, I just don't do emotions. And I'm not alone. Like I see a lot of athletes who first come to me to potentially work with me, and they're pretty much in the same boat. There's a lot of like emotional repression. And also not a whole lot of like awareness that we create so many beliefs since the day we're born practically. And sometimes even from before that, and they get carried into our life. And those also then reflect in our daily life of like our habits and our routines. And athletes have a tendency, you would think they would be amazing at all these things, but athletes have a tendency to not be super great with their habits. So, and that's not actually, I would say that in many ways is a reflection of like this, why this stuff is so important, because those habits are that outcome of those actions that we take are based on like what's going on in our subconscious mind. So like that's the process and the tools that have been just so effective for me as far as like just how I've been changing how I work with people and athletes is like, if you work on your beliefs, then that reality shifts. And what you get to actually experience, what do we call it? It's perception is projection, right? Like, so how you perceive it, and is also a lot of the time based on your beliefs. So then that is end up what you see. You end up seeing that in your reality. So that is what I mean. Like the process of all of that and going through that is really what opened up a lot of doors for not just me, but also for the people that I work with.
Did you get a lot of resistance from people in the idea of going into this arena versus Dr. K, I really just run that functional test and give me the supplement or
and actually,
adjust
yes,
me.
Yes. And I actually received that even from another, like coach who I considered a friend of mine, another functional medicine practitioner. She, they kind of were like, well, they just want this. So just give them that. And what ended up being very clear to me is I went through this whole process, right? And this is actually a really important part of this is like, I did the thing where I was like, no, like I am holding to this. Like it does need both because I want to help you at the highest level because I don't want to waste time. You don't want to waste time. Like you want to get through this stuff like as quickly as possible because I know like where you're at can be very painful. So why would I want to hold back something that might take us longer to get there when I have this thing that could get you there much faster, right? Like to me, my brain's like, why would you do that? And then I was met with a lot of resistance and I'm still oftentimes met with resistance and I have to kind of work with people through it. And sometimes they're just like not up for that. And that's totally fine too. Because I do recognize that like facing the things that are hard is hard to do. But it also has a lot of impact. And so, for people who are resistant, I think taking that step of like recognizing that there are certain ways of being that usually get you to where you are. And that then has to shift if you want something different. And that's what I had to shift too, was like, okay, I recognize now it's not just about the physical body. There's a lot more things in play than just the physical body. And that's ultimately too what like shifted a lot of my own stuff. Like I noticed like I had a very, very, very mild case of endometriosis coming into that level 1 training. And throughout the last, has it been 8 months? I don't know. It's over 6 months. Those minimal symptoms that I have improved incrementally as well. And I just have recognized that like, even though I wasn't actively focusing on that specifically because it wasn't a pain point for me anymore, that still has improved, which just tells you how much working on these energy systems and the subconscious mind guides so much of what our physical experience is. So yeah, meeting that resistance is always a little tricky because it's like, I get it. And I know that like you are an elite performer. I know you're somebody who's like done some pretty amazing and awesome things. And you still are here because you're recognizing that you have more to go. So let's help you do that as quickly as we possibly can and as deeply as we possibly can so that we don't have to end up back here in like a few years from now.
That's beautiful. So for someone who said you came in saying, I don't do emotions,
Mm-hmm.
how are you feeling about that now?
That was such a process. And actually, I feel it's so odd, because like I came into that, like not wanting to cry on like our coaching calls. I was in tears. I know you don't remember this, which I think is so interesting to me. I was like in the front row, and I think within like 5 or 10 minutes, like I was crying at training. It was like the first like walkthrough that we did, and I just ended up just bawling, and I was really, really uncomfortable. I was fairly uncomfortable throughout that entire week. And then it continued on after that, where in a lot of our coaching calls, like I would just be in tears within another like 5 minutes of the call. What really shifted for me was actually something that Dr. Alex shared with me. It was that she said, well, in her true fashion, which is so beautiful, she was like, do you cry a lot? And I was like, well, I have been, yes. And she was like, have you ever thought that like you cry because you care? And I was like, that's exactly right. Like, I really care about this. This means a lot to me. And like, I don't want to be here anymore. And that's really why, like, that's where this emotion is coming from. And I've noticed over the last couple of months, I cry less and less and less on our calls, because I went through a lot of the processing of clearing out where those old emotions were being stored in my body, and also gaining a lot of tools to be able to like know that an emotion is a guide. An emotion is something that like is telling me something about what's going on in my environment or what's coming into my sphere, which is in a completely different way of looking at it than being like, all emotions, I don't want to feel them. And so we're just going to put those all in a box over there and pretend they don't exist, which actually you end up missing a lot of things about what that's all telling you. And so anyway, yeah, I don't know how much more to say on that, but like there was a big part of that of also starting to trust my gut and my intuition, which has been something that has truly been, I think, maybe one of the most helpful things that I rely on a lot now, is what my gut, or well, I'm still learning it, but is really what is my gut telling me at this point. And it's funny because like when I don't listen to it, I'm like, hey, learn that lesson. Trust that gut, and that's really also where those emotions come in. Like, it's a huge part of life that I was just saying, like, I just didn't want to engage in because it made me uncomfortable. But it's turned into being this amazing tool that I now have, of just being like, oh, it's making me angry. Like, I wonder, why that is. And either I'm being triggered by something that I haven't dealt with yet, or somebody's crossing a boundary, or there's something about that I really don't like. That perspective is huge, because that now gives you so many options, instead of just like shooting me into fight or flight of like, I don't like anything, so I'm just going to like avoid all the things, and then having my nervous system just be completely dysregulated all the time.
And Kirstin, I feel that you've mentioned, do you think that the inability to really get into the emotions, or maybe the dissociation from that is linked to how now your body is feeling different, and like the endometriosis has really shifted? Do you find that to be linked?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I don't know a whole lot about this still. I'm still actually learning quite a lot of it. But what I have heard is that endometriosis does have a tendency to be connected with dissociation. And I look back now at my childhood and see a lot of places where I just dissociated because that was safer for me to do. And so now looking back,
just, I guess, for people who aren't totally familiar with the term, is essentially you're stepping out of your body. You're not really looking through your own eyes. You're like, okay, I will separate from that thing that's happening, and I will kind of cut off from myself from, it also cuts it off from your own energy source, your own intuition. So it's a safety mechanism, always to protect, and can become a pattern, right?
Yep. Yeah. And it really was like protecting me from things that were really painful, things that were really, really tough to go through as a, kid, middle schooler, high schooler, just, yeah. So that is definitely something that I've been learning a lot, is that, I was also spending a lot of my days in high school, like, oh, if I could just like get sick, or if I could just like break my arm, then I wouldn't have to like do the thing that I have been signed up for, that I need to do. And I know that as an adult, people do that too. Can I just get sick so I can like take some time off? It's really, really important that we be very aware of how like we're talking to ourselves. And if you're saying something like that, a lot of the time, the body will respond to those things at some point. So like asking to get sick could have some, negative outcomes that we don't intend. And that's what I learned personally, is like that actually did end up leading to a lot of the things that I experienced. So then I had to fix and correct a lot of those things and heal a lot of those things. And that's really where that emotion thing really comes in. It's like, it's really important to be able to like recognize them and be aware of them. And, it was a lot of like not wanting to experience a lot of the hard negative emotions that we, is like sadness, hurt, fear, anger, guilt, shame. But the thing I've also realized too, is as I've learned more about those and what they mean and how I experience them, has also amplified the good ones too, like happiness and joy and gratitude. Like I've noticed, just last night I went on a walk to process some things, and I ended that walk with just so much gratitude. And it was a gratitude that I could like legitimately feel throughout my whole body. And I recognize it as being just so powerful. I was like, that was not something I would experience in the past. Like I'm a very grateful person. I have a lot of, that's kind of part of who I am. But that intensity of that experience, I think, has come with this understanding of what these emotions are and what they mean, and just being able to feel them in their entirety.
Do you have any obvious areas where you've seen clients or other people kind of address physical symptoms by using this, a rewiring of a belief or letting go of an emotion?
Mm-hmm. So from an athlete perspective, there are a lot of athletes who get injured with non-contact injuries. So contact injuries are a little bit different, but non-contact injuries, like you're running down a field and you pull a hamstring. Nobody hit you. You just randomly pulled a hamstring. It's really interesting when you start asking a lot of questions, because sometimes, or in a lot of the times, what you're going to find is they are also dealing with something outside of that sport. So it could be family stress, could be life stress, could be something else. That is where this stuff becomes really powerful, because athletes or people who are getting injured multiple times a year, or they have a chronic illness of some type, and then they also have additional stressors outside of that for their career, for like maybe they have a contract that, is coming up that they are going to need to figure out. Maybe they are potentially up to be traded to a different team. You might have to move your whole family for that. You end up in a completely different state, right? There's all these things that are additional stressors outside of just sport. And we also have that in business. We have that in just any sort of realm that you're in. Like we're going to have those kinds of things. And that's really where like working on the subconscious beliefs, working on the emotions, working on all of the ways that your nervous system is managing and handling a lot of that stress outside of that can have such a big impact on whether or not an athlete has injuries throughout the year. Because it's not just about the sport and the physicality of it all. There's so much more going on, not to mention all the other functional medicine side of things too, right? Like the nutrition and making sure that they don't have a bunch of micronutrient deficiencies, and is their gut functioning properly, so it's not causing a bunch of inflammation everywhere else, right? It's like managing the two of those, which is really where the like transformation and the magic happens. It's like, it's both, and it's all of it.
That's what I love. And I've watched you have so much success so quickly. And I really think because you're marrying all of that, right? You're not just leaving out the physical body and going for it's all in your head, it's all in your beliefs, it's all in your subconscious. And we're not just addressing the physical body and then leaving that part out. So that combination is just so powerful.
Yeah.
And so Kirstin, I mean, I love to get into your brain because I've watched how fast that you've up leveled and you've just really, really implemented things. And I'm sure that working with athletes or people who high performance, people who care about performance, whether it's in their business or, or athletically, help us pull out, are there some strategies or some patterns that you see in the people that do successfully transform, they do reach these higher levels? What do you see that we can kind of map across to just anything, map across to whatever we want to be successful in, or anything that's worked for you? Does anything stand out in that category?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Here's some sort of like step-by-step of, and I'm going to actually give it in the context of kind of how I worked through a lot of my stuff. And that's also what I've seen a lot of for my patients too, and athletes too. Step number one for a lot of it was starting to work through where I mentioned this before, is like working through those negative emotions and where they get stored in the body. So, one of the things that NLP teaches is that you can, well, first off, all those emotions that we've ever experienced from 0 to now or before get all stored up. And they get like, boxed all together, for each individual ones. And then you can store those in the body. So I start there with everybody because that helps. If there are negative emotions that are stored, that are driving gut stuff, if they're driving joint stuff, they're driving, other expressions of what people are experiencing in symptoms, that's the first place to start. Clear those, start working on gut intuition. 3 questions that really help me a lot. What do I want? What do I need? How do I feel in any given moment? And then making a choice based off of that. For me, and also for a lot of my athletes too, because they have a tendency to do a lot of performance and adding things on top of more and more and more to hide away from the hard stuff. That process is really, really hard on the body. And this looks like, for an athlete that's in off season, continuing to train, or just not necessarily giving yourself that time to recover. This also potentially looks like taking on massive, big projects at that same time, when your body needs to be resting and recovering. They have a lot of beliefs, though, usually around recovery and rest. Like, they're going to get ahead of me. My competition's going to be better than me. People on my team are going to be training. So like, I gotta do all this stuff too. And they miss the point of the off season, which is, I've got to let my body rest and recover and build up all of these nutrients so that I'm ready to go for in season and for training. So that's one thing that's really, really important, is like, we've got to work on what that performance and layering stress upon stress upon stressor looks like. I mean, adding more and more and more on top of an already stressed body, working through where those stressors are coming from, what's throwing that nervous system into fight or flight. Stress is usually your biggest one. And also, what does that mean to you, right? What are the stories that you're telling yourself based off of like what this all is saying, what's all happening around you? And then the other part of that is, what does that performance then mean to you too? Are we basing a lot of our worth and our value on what we achieve and our performance? It's funny because you would think that like by working through a lot of that, the performance would then become less important, or like wouldn't necessarily go higher. But when you work on the fact that like your performance and what you achieve is awesome, and it's also, you're also worthy and you're valued and valuable, just being you is like who you are. Your performance doesn't necessarily is not your worth, right? So working through that whole system for athletes is one of the most transformational things that you'll see, because then that opens up the door for performance that is, beyond what you would ever think or consider possible, right? So I think that's really a good like example of where we start, but we also look at like your labs. We look at those functional labs of like nutrient deficiencies. We want to make sure that inflammation is being handled well, as well as, how your gut bacteria can influence your performance and your energy and mitochondria systems. And then I'll just tackle this one too. There's also a lot of athletes who deal with some form of anxiety or depression throughout their careers. So part of my system and kind of protocols of how I flow through these things is looking at those two, because they're going to influence not only your experience in your sport, they're going to influence what's going on inside your physical body. And they also influence family life. They influence, your external life outside of your career and your sport and all of those things too. So that's kind of the process I work through with people, is like figuring out the root of where a lot of those things come from, and then tackling whatever else, comes up as life tends to do its thing. But was that what you, I don't know if that was exactly what it was
Amazing.
You were asking, but okay.
Yeah. Thanks for spelling it out. I love
that.
I know that one of the biggest wins that you actually had, well, I'm putting words in your mouth, but I know it was a big deal, was a part of doing less and letting things go.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit about how that played out for you and how letting go of chiropractic work was a big shift for you?
Yeah. So, and that's been such an interesting ride too, because, I came to that NLP training saying like, I just don't want to do chiropractic anymore. Like I did not want to continue having that clinic. But I felt so stuck and bound to it because, well, I mean, financially for one reason, like that was keeping a lot of things afloat. Like I had a consistent number of patients. It was a safe thing. I could almost expect that I was going to make the same amount each month, but it wasn't growing because I didn't want to do it anymore. And I was also leaving, those days so exhausted and drained. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I also was really busy on top of that. Like I had, especially when I made the transition to incorporating NLP stuff. I mean, I had a really busy schedule because I definitely used to have a belief that like being busy and working hard and doing all these things led to making money and success. So rest in and of itself was something that I just didn't do. What I found out through this process is that the rest time that I've created, which is anywhere sometimes between 10 minutes to 2 hours a day, like legitimately, like we had this, Megan, you and I had this conversation, and I was like, okay, I'll figure that out. Like successful people take 2 hours a day of like rest and silent time. Fine. I'll figure that out.
Put it on my schedule.
Yeah. Like, I think you gave me an example of somebody, I don't even remember their name at this point, but you were like, yeah, they've written like all of these books and done all of these things and been so productive. And guess what? They also like spend about 2 hours a day of just like silent time. And I was like, fine, done. I'll figure it out.
I love it.
But that's actually my mindset though, right? Is like, okay, like you're saying that this, and I knew like for me, figuring out that rest time and that balance between the flow of like creating amazing things and like also creating the life that I want, how that looks doesn't come from doing more necessarily, right? Like actually what has been the biggest factor and change for me is getting my time back of like, I wake up a lot of mornings now and I just like drink my coffee and just hang for a bit, like I did not do that. I did not do that before. And it has been beautiful. It's been like the most transformative, not just for my life and for my health, but also for my business. I am really walking that journey of what it looks like to do less and make more, do less and help more, have more impact. And it's a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful gift because like like before the training, I was like, yeah, I hear you. Like you're all saying that I need to do less, but like, how do I actually do that? Like, I can't just like shut down my chiropractic clinic. Like that would be death. Like that would literally kill my business because I didn't have a way of figuring out like, what can I do instead? Because I also didn't have a belief that I was worth, oh man. I didn't think that I could actually offer high ticket programs and that people would buy from me and that what I had to offer and what I brought to the table was worth that. All of my education, my 5 degrees,
I know,
all of my
I
certifications.
wanted to just point that out for anybody listening who has these kind of thoughts. This is coming from someone who is like a doctor and has like literally her list of degrees and certifications are
And
pages.
so much time, right? So much time. I mean, I also have additional certifications in functional sports medicine, also in like working with female athletes and making sure that like we're actually working with their, I mean, like I have like
Right.
education wise, I've spent a lot of time learning what I know. And so then to then believe that like people that I don't deserve to get paid for all of that time is like, like that's it. So that was the gift, right? Of like being able to actually realize that, yeah, this is worth that because the impact and the change and the transformations that happen are incredible for these people. And that has been so fun to get to see because I've shifted, I've changed, and I don't practice chiropractic anymore. That I don't have that physical clinic anymore, which is beautiful. And I loved every part of that in many ways of like that journey. And I'm also really grateful that I don't do it anymore. And then also it's been so cool to watch how this new way of working with people, of really incorporating all of the pieces, has had such an incredible impact. And I just want to share this just because just the other day, a past patient of mine who's also kind of a friend, but she was like, hey, can we hop on a call? And I haven't worked with her for a couple months now. She's like, I just want to share with you how awesome things have been going. And so we hopped on a call and she just for an hour just told me all of these things that have just been going so well and that she's so happy about. And I was like, man, like this is why you do this, because like you've seen this impact in your own life, and being able to like guide people through this for themselves is the coolest thing, to have them then come back and be like, hey, this is how much of an impact you had. Like that, like it almost brings tears to my eyes because like that transformation is what this is all about. And I like love every minute of all of that. And it's also cool because I have a lot of tools now too. Like and I just thinking about that patient in particular, she had a moment there where I wasn't sure she was going to continue on because she was just all up in what she needed to move through and break through. And that was a great reminder for me of like, it's not about me. Like it's about them. It's about their process of what they need to get through. And that is also, again, for the practitioners out there who are listening to this, that's also what NLP and these trainings and all of these things give you. It's like, I originally would have thought like, oh my gosh, like I've done all these things wrong. Like this person's not getting better. This is all my fault. I obviously don't know enough. I need to go to the internet and know all of my textbooks and figure out what's going on. And is not about me. It's really about that person going through what they needed to go through. And then how beautiful is that I got to learn through that process. And then also to have her come back on the flip side being like, you like this stuff, like this is how this has changed my life. And like, this is so amazing, like the product of all of this and really working with you. And like, yeah, it's just been so cool to get to witness and go through all of this for myself as well.
And I've watched more magic and more pathways open up for you as you stepped into that, right? You were recognizing exactly what you had to offer, how the amazing results the athletes were getting. So you started to really own that. And then just, cool collaborations and projects and things opened up because of that. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are you excited about working on next? Anything you can
Oh
share?
man. Yeah. So we have, there's so many things.
I know
Okay.
you
I'll give
always have so
you,
many things.
I know. Well,
I
that's also
love
my
all the
design,
things.
isn't it? Okay. I have a couple of things that I'll mention. So one, is my podcast and YouTube show. Like that's something I've been like super, super excited about as far as
Yes.
like consistency and growing that and really talking about and getting to share a lot of these processes that I've shared today. Another one is I'm starting to collaborate as well with another friend of mine. So we're coming together to work with people who are like us, chiropractors, PTs, healthcare people who, are maybe either feeling a little bit burned out in all of it, or they're starting to realize that maybe this isn't exactly what they wanted to be doing. Maybe there's something else that is available, and really, kind of starting to think like, man, I don't know if this is really what I want to be doing for the rest of forever. Right. And really working through like, what does it mean to go to 4 years and gain a lot of student debt to then be like, I'm not going to practice that anymore? Yeah, like I had to get through that too. You helped me work through that one. And so we're partnering together to help with what we each have learned through our process of not practicing PT or chiropractic anymore, and giving tools and trainings and things to create the life they do want, one that is something that they were super excited about, and whatever that looks like. And yeah, I'm just one-on-one trainings. I'll share one more thing because it actually is, I'm like really excited about it. So in my process of triathlons and training and all of those things, and I mentioned it, like just adding more and more and more and more and more on top of all of that, I got very, 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 very burned out and injured in some ways. And this year, and through this process of working with you and Dr. Alex, it makes me smile because I'm just loving every bit of it. I have been developing a process around movement that not only uses movement as a processing tool, but also is developing a movement routine, practice, a daily thing that is all based on like what feels really good for that day. It is breaking through the judgments and the processes of like, it has to look a certain way in order for me to achieve so-and-so, it has to look this way. And also like breaking through that, like, like I really don't want to do that day. I just need to like show up and do the thing. Well, like, what if that actually could like look different? Like what if we could do something that's like, okay, well, if that's how you're feeling today, what does feel good? Like what does feel like you want to do that today? And figuring out what that looks like. So I'm calling it the aligned movement practice or process. And I'm just like so excited about that one, to keep working on that system and developing it.
Awesome. Okay. So we have drkirstin.com, your Instagram, and then what was the name of your, what's the name of your podcast for everybody listening?
Yeah. The Fit and Healthy Athlete Podcast.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Finding all the things. So obviously find her on Instagram, because you all are going to tag us with the one thing that you're going to do. If you did not get one thing from this episode, then you must have had something in your ears, because there was so many good things that I just heard. And that's, that's why I asked specifically for myself as well. I want to model what top performance athletes are doing, or what you're learning from it, right? We can all, we're working with people. We learn our own stuff. We see what works for them. We give the feedback. We bring it to the community. We have such an amazing community. So I'm so happy to have you be a part of it, Dr. K.
Thank you so much. It's been a ride, and I am so glad to be here. And I've also met, Megan, I've met a lot of really amazing people who are turning into friends too through this community, which is so beautiful. Like, I love that.
Yes. You said you don't even know how Alex and I met. Well, we met on Instagram, and we were and I think that is kind of the new way, as Alex and I believe we have to like create our family now and create our community the way we want. And because we do have social media that can be used for good.
Yep.
Meeting those people. And then, we see these people at events even more than maybe we see the friends, the neighbor friends, because we go to trainings and we spend 7 days together, and then you're pretty bonded after that.
True. Oh, love that. Awesome. Well, thank you. That's great. I appreciate learning that now.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm Diane. And more than a year ago, I took my first habit challenge with the Zesty Ginger team. And I honestly had no idea how life-changing it would be for me and how lasting that experience would be for me as well. It's incredible to think how much I've grown and changed, and how much I'm continuing to grow and change into the person that I always knew that I could be and that I wanted to be. This stuff is so incredible, and it's really fun. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to do this work, and that the things that they teach are sustainable, and you can do it yourself, and it's just really powerful.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.